The idea for the exhibition first came about when Objects Director approached me about working with the space, and it seemed like a great opportunity to look into the thing that had interested me the most over the last year working with & Company, which was the people that we'd gotten to meet through working with designers and working on other exhibitions, finding out more about the people, not only the designers, but people who work with the designers, their makers, their retailers, their networks, their support people, was so fascinating and so special to be able to get a bit of insight into these people and their lives. And this seemed like a fantastic opportunity to really delve into that and to share that with the public as well. In Good Company is about just that. It's about pulling together designers and their broader networks in good company, both in terms of introducing them and introducing the people that help them and that they work with to the broader public, also introducing their processes and how they approach design and their big ideas about design to the general public, and also to young designers coming up and sharing their stories and sharing their wisdom and broadening out that design community. And also it's evidenced in things at the table behind me, where we put all the designers work together, so putting the designers into the company of each other, and looking at what happens when you bring all these great ideas and skills and passions and stories together around the table together. Behind me is a dining table installation, which was a way of bringing together the actual products and works that the designers in the show have created, to show them in their context of use. These are all quite beautiful objects that we might see on shop shelves and see in magazines, but they are designed to be used and used in everyday kind of contexts. So by putting them into a really familiar setting like a dinner table, it starts to show how they can be used and imply that use. But it's also a way of bringing together all these works by different designers. Instead of separating them out into perhaps more works of art separately, it's showing what happens when you bring all these amazing Sydney-based designers together and what their work contributes to. The dinner table has also been used for actual dinners in the gallery. We've had some events, so people have sat around the table with food cooked by Chris Tay from Black Star Pastry, and really got to enjoy interacting with the objects and using these objects, which has been really exciting. I guess the objects on the table and the table itself as well, of course, are also evidence of the output of the rest of the exhibition. The rest of the exhibition talks about the stories and the processes and how people arrive at an endpoint, and this is also a demonstration of what that endpoint is. Once you've worked with those manufacturers and spoken with the retailers and developed your product, these are some of the endpoints that people have arrived at, which is really exciting. An example of this is Oliver Smith, who's a silversmith and designer, and he comes from a hand-making background, so I've asked him to talk to us about his big ideas and his processes. And when it comes to making, he also talks about his connections and work with Bear Design, who he's worked on a few projects with, initially just working getting them to do some CAD drawings for him to allow him to take his handcrafted objects into other manufacturing possibilities. But also he's collaborated on designs with Andrew Simpson from Bear Design. Together they've developed a carafe called the Stiller Carafe, which is shown in the exhibition. Bear Design works on a whole lot of both industrial design as well as beautiful glass design and homemaking and different sorts of approaches to product design. And in producing their work, they've worked with Edels and Elliott. Ben and Kathy produce and do a lot of prototyping with Andrew, but they also now produce and make some of these things as well. So that's one example of some of these networks and how interconnected these people are. Another example is Naomi Chaplin, who is an emerging designer. She's a recent graduate who, in her big idea, starts talking about other people's work that she's found and looking at ideas of resourcefulness and being responsible as a designer. But in terms of her making, she's got quite a few connections to different people. It's been quite an engaged process. So one of the first things that happened with her oyster shells that she's developed is that they had to be 3D scanned and then printed out, rapid prototyped. So she had to work with Rapid Prototyper, which was just an LC at Rapid Prototyping Services. Once those prototypes were printed, they were then given to a mould maker, Somchai. Somchai worked with a whole lot of different designers around Sydney. He's a master mould maker. So he was given those prototypes to make a plaster mould. And once he'd made the mould, that mould was then given to Malcolm Greenwood, who is a potter and ceramicist, who then hand makes every single oyster shell. And Malcolm also has his own practice as well. So this is perhaps an example of one of the more complicated processes with layers of people that contribute to the final product.